not.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Paranormal Trucker, or PT for short. With me today is Snowman.
Hello.
And, of course, the beautiful Large Marge.
Hey.
I want a smoker's voice so bad I can't stand it. So what have you paranormal freaks been into this week?
Just work.
Just work?
Just work.
Me too. I did a 1,800-mile drive to Florida and back this week.
Well, if I had to drive 1,800 miles, Florida would be the where I choose to go.
Yeah, I didn't want to come back. That was the problem. And so I come back.
But the hurricanes are getting ready to hit there.
I know. It was so cool. I did a video this week while I was down there, and you can see some big storm clouds off in the distance. It was pretty cool. But, I always kind of wanted to be in a hurricane. I was kind of thought it'd be kind of neat to ride one out.
The one they said, Fred's coming first, and they said it might be a hurricane.
Yeah.
But then behind that is Glenna or something. And they said she's the one that they're watching, that she could be a real problem.
Oh, really? That's supposed to hit Florida?
It's in about 7 days. It's way down in the Caribbean right now.
Well, you heard it here first from Large Marge herself. If you were in the
Florida
Florida
said it's going to hit the East Coast, go up the East Coast.
Oh, if you're on the East Coast, Florida, wherever, be careful, trucker friends. Today, we're going to be talking about some stuff, and I guess I will jump in and go first. I've got some haunted locations that some of our trucker friends have had, which, this being the Paranormal Trucker, makes sense. We would talk about it, right?
Right.
So it's here to the trucker's tale that the U.S. is crisscrossed with haunted highways and byways and dotted with haunted truck stops and roadhouses. Even service stations, something the members of the Driver Council organized by the Road Pro family of brands knows all too well. For example, there is an abandoned Tri-County truck stop in Villa Ridge, Missouri, just west of St. Louis on Old Route 66. It's been visited by several teams of paranormal investigators, including one from the Sci-Fi Channel, and their conclusion was it's haunted. Clinton Road in West Milford, New Jersey, is bumper to bumper with strange occurrences, including the ghost of a drowned boy who throws coins back at travelers tossed into the river. Phantom trucks that suddenly appear with blazing headlights and blaring horns, rumors of cannibal cults, and so on. According to the Road Pro, though, it's not surprising that truckers have an affinity for ghost stories. They see a lot more of the country than most people, and they're often out by themselves at strange hours and on unfamiliar roads. But in the thin-walled sleepers often park in the middle of nowhere surrounded by strangers. Now, that's true. So I have heard things while I've been in my sleeper, things that would kind of curl the hairs on the back of your neck, scratchings or weird animal sounds, stuff like that. It's very strange, especially on a backcountry road where you just kind of stopped off on the side of the road. You're sleeping or trying to sleep. It's a little unnerving.
Do you try to debunk them when you hear them?
Oh, no. No. If I hear strange animal noises scratching outside the door, I am not going out there. I turn my radio on and turn my thunderstorms on YouTube and go to bed. That's it. Lock the doors.
Are you sure it's not lot lizards?
It could be.
Oh God! Oh God!
It could be. I've never met a lot lizard that can speak clearly.
What a party!
Yeah, they all missing their teeth, or they're washing their hoo-ha out in the water holes next to the truck stops.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. So
that's
the good
oil slick I always see.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's why it always smells like pee at a truck stop.
Ooh.
The good folks at Road Pro say suspense comes from not being quite sure what you've seen or haven't seen. It's that rustle behind you, that flicker of movement at the edge of your vision. The high speed and the dark allow you to determine that the red eyes on the ditch by the side of the road belong to a possum and not something else, or that the flickering light behind the trees is a pole barn. So, what ghostly tales do truck drivers tell amongst themselves? Maggie Stone, a livestock hauler from Iowa, and a Road Pro driver council member shared this one. There is a county road out by Joplin, Missouri, and on this road one can see a light. They call it the spook light. It's very eerie to see. They say it's the ghosts of soldiers who battled there, and I've heard tales that it is where UFOs come into our atmosphere. I drove down this road. The animals weren't in the woods where they belonged. They were all out in the ditches. Strange. Well, I'm sorry. They were all out in the ditches, and that is strange, of course. When I saw the lights in the distance, it was an odd glow that made your hair stand on end. Goosebumps. Radio static. Made me never want to go down there again. Tom Kirk, another Road Pro driver council member, added this. Near the Allentown, Pennsylvania truck stop is a 24-hour diner that caters to locals and truckers alike. It has this an odd vibe that I could really never explain. Late one night, I was having dinner and got to talking about the history of the diner with the waitress and another customer. She said it was built on an Indian burial ground, and several pedestrians had been killed in front of their diner. We talked about some of the strange happenings, like lights turning off and on for no reason, things like that. All of a sudden, a customer who no one had seen before said, "There was a young girl about 12 to 14 killed in front of here, wasn't there?" Oh, an employee in their mid-30s who everyone thought was a bit weird or creepy, maybe named Lenny. The waitress got a weird look and said, "Yeah, about 10 years ago, a schoolgirl was walking home in front of here and was struck and killed. Also, our dishwasher was hit crossing the street late one night after work, and his name was Lenny." Needless to say, things got real quiet and the subject was changed. So the country is littered, absolutely littered with paranormal ghost tales, strange happenings and things. Now, I've said this before, that when something very horrible happens and a life is lost in a very bad way, that energy is imprinted on the fabric of reality, which would make sense if you got hit by a vehicle. The moments of terror, pain, anguish, suffering, whatever, that's a very bad thing that could put out a lot of bad energy. In the early days of this country, there was never any easy deaths. So it makes sense that a lot of places out west, a lot of the farms, plantations, even the Northeast, the Northeast, where the Salem witch trials took place, all of this bad juju, bad karma imprinted on the fabric of reality and will be forever.
And I think being at the right place at the right time is a trucker 100%. Because, like the point you make, you're the one out on the ground running at night. People are asleep, and things happen. They go bump in the night.
Oh, definitely. And well, yeah, and also think about this. A trucker is by themselves in their cab all the time, for 24/7 for the entirety of their shift, whether it be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Some guys even go for 3 months at a time or longer. They're in their truck by themselves. They're isolated. It's a very isolated life. If you know a trucker, guys, thank them, be nice to them. They don't live exactly the best type of life. They're very isolated and on the road all the time, away from their loved ones, away from their families. With that being said, I think a lot of that has to do with that fact that they're isolated, and a lot of people may think, well, these guys are just crazy, pulling too many hours, saw some weird stuff. I don't think
you don't have anything to focus on except the road.
Exactly. And when something catches, when you're hyper focused on the road and you're driving 40 tons at minimum around, some of these guys are hauling more than that if they're a wide load or heavy load, and you're focused on the road, you see every little thing that jumps out at you or kind of startles you a little bit. Every little thing catches your eye.
Yeah, that kind of falls back to the ghost story I told last week, delivering paint, where I saw the child run out into the road.
Oh yeah,
and I'm not a trucker. I was just in a pickup truck, but that's what I was thinking. Maybe a child got killed there at some point.
Yeah.
And it's forever running out in front of that out in the road.
Doomed to repeat that issue or that moment in time forever.
Yeah.
And it may not even be the spirit of the kid that's doing it. It may have just been such a terrible
that
incident
imprinted,
that is
imprinted.
Yeah.
That instant recorded it.
Exactly.
Just over and over and over.
Exactly.
Well, maybe that child didn't cross over.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe
Just
not.
kind of stuck there.
And maybe again taking a reference from a movie's The Sixth Sense, when you don't realize you're dead. You can't really move on if you don't know that you need to move on, right?
Right.
So what's
you also got to look at somebody dies and they might be afraid to go.
Oh yeah, very true.
You hear all.
May I say, in that movie, am I the only one that did not know until the very last second that kid, that Bruce Willis was dead the whole time?
No, I had no clue.
I had no clue.
I had no idea.
I felt like the biggest dummy.
They did a very, very excellent job at that movie. So what's the difference, you might ask, between a fairy tale and a trucker tale? Fairy tales begin with once upon a time, and a trucker tale begins with you ain't never going to believe this. So that's what I've got from the road this week. I'll have some more for next week. I've got another story I'll talk about, but we'll do that later on in the episode. If Snowman, if you want to talk about what are we talking about today? The CSX versus train.
It's probably one of the more famous UFO sightings in Kentucky. But it being close to home, I figured let's do this one.
And not only that, but there's not a lot about it that you can find.
No, there's not a lot. The only thing that I have found, and I looked on quite a few websites, they all print the MUFON report.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
So what does that mean to you? What does it mean that that's the only place you can find it is the MUFON report?
Well, that means that MUFON came out and investigated, so they must have thought there was something to it.
Now, when you talk about MUFON, you're talking about the Mutual UFO Network. Okay.
Yeah, that goes out, which they're worldwide, but they go out and investigate, and they're not a government agency. They're a private.
Privateers. Yeah.
Yes. So they investigate all this stuff, and they're get on their website, and some of the reports they have are pretty interesting.
Oh, for sure.
This one, like I said, this is close to home. We're within an hour of Paintsville, and it's just a pretty neat story. But I actually got on here and went to NTSB website. There's no report of it. I went to the federal government, the Railroad Association,
FRA.
Railroad Association, yes, and they have nothing on it. And I even went to a Wikipedia, which I'm not a big fan of because there's just too much bullshit in there. But looked up train wrecks in Kentucky, and it actually has a list of all the wrecks that happened in Kentucky, and this is not listed. So I'm just going to read this, and we'll just kind of talk about it and see what everybody thinks. Okay. And hopefully, we'll try to see if we can find some more information out about it. But I know there's been a lot of people trying to investigate it, and other than this, there's not a lot out there. Evidently, somebody's wanting to keep something quiet if this is true. Okay, it says Paintsville, Kentucky, at exactly 2:47 a.m. on January 14th, 2002, while working a coal train en route from Russell, Kentucky to Shelbyana, Kentucky. Our trailing unit and first two cars were severely damaged as we struck an unknown floating or hovering object. I know it was 2:47 because my watch froze, and to this day has still shows the same time. Along with my watch, the entire electrical system of both locomotives went haywire, approaching the bend near where milepost 42 in the area referred to as the Wild Kingdom for the many different types of animals spotted there. My conductor and I saw lights coming from around the way. This originally meant another train was coming and will pass on the other track. The outlay of the area is the river, track number 1, track number 2, and a straight up mountainside carved into laying these tracks. I killed our lights as not to blind the oncoming crew. As we rounded the corner, our onboard computer began to flash in and out. Speed recorder went nuts, and both locomotives died. Alarm bells began ringing, and that's when we saw the object, apparently scanning the river for something. At least 3 objects had several searchlights trained there, the first object hovering about 10 to 12 feet above the track. It was metallic silver in color with multicolored lights near the bottom and in the middle. There were no windows or openings of any kind that we could see. It was about 18 to 20 foot in length and probably 10 foot high. With both engines dead, we rounded the corner, we made little noise, and the first object did not respond in time. I estimate that we hit the object at 30 miles an hour with 16,000 tons trailing behind us. It clipped the top of our lead unit and then skipped back, slicing a chunk out of our trailing unit and the first 2 coal cars. The other objects vanished. Our emergency brakes had initiated due to the loss of power, and we stopped approximately a mile or a mile and a half after impact. Our power restored after we were stopped. We notified our dispatcher located in Jacksonville, Florida, of what had happened. We were told to inspect the cars and see if they would hold the rails and try to limp into milepost 60, which used to be the Paintsville yard, which is no longer in full operation. We checked everything out, and the cab of the rear locomotive was demolished and smoking. The second 2 cars looked as if they would have been hit by a giant hammer, but looked like they would hold the rails. Lord of mercy, it's 3rd grade reading here.
Oh, you're doing good.
We pulled into the Paintsville yard at approximately 5:15 a.m. The huge overhead lights lining the yard were noticeably dark, and the only lights came from what we assumed were railroad officials' vehicles parked near the end of the track. We pulled to a stop and began unloading our grips from the wounded train. We could hear what sounded like an army of workers immediately tending to our train. Vehicle doors slamming, guys running by in weird outfits, lights glaring from all directions. The one thing missing was railroad officials. A guy named Ferguson shook my hand and asked me to follow him into the old yard office. We did. Once inside, they, and by they I mean I have no idea who these people were, began asking hundreds of questions. They then told us for our own protection, we'd be immediately tested before we could leave. I asked repeatedly to talk to the railroad foreman or a train master, and not only were these requests denied, but they confiscated my conductor's cell phone. Hours later, we were let out of the yard office, and the strange thing continued to happen the 2 locomotives and the 2 cars were removed from the rest of the train, and we had brought in. And my only guess was they were parked 4 tracks over under a huge tent-like structure, buzzing with activity. We were led off the property and told, due to national security, our silence would be appreciated. We were then put in a railroad vehicle and taken to Martin, Kentucky, where we went through questioning again with railroad officials and then drug testing. After all this, we were sent to Shelbyana, where we took a rest for 8 hours and worked another train back to Russell. Working back, we passed Paintsville, no sign of the engines, cars, tent, people, or nothing. And that was the end of the article.
So no, that's an 8-hour window.
Yes.
That these 2 massively damaged trains. Sorry, I've got a dog here that's apparently burped into the microphone. He's a Great Dane. If nobody, I'll show you. All right, buddy, look in there. Look at the camera. Look right here. Look at the camera.
Hey, buddy.
He likes to be a part of the show. But no, that is a lot of material. That's a lot of equipment to move in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And where would you move it to that nobody would know?
Exactly. And how would you get it out of there? Because there's
Not
only
that fast.
one or 2 main lines there.
If you've ever been to Paintsville and passed the yard, there's a lot of houses and businesses in that area. You know, somebody would have seen something.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, at 5 o'clock in the morning, okay, in January it's gonna get daylight about 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Was that stuff still there at 7 o'clock when all the people were coming up the road? You know, there again, they had it in a tent, but these people would have probably seen the tent, say, well, that's strange, you know. But I would be curious. I would love to see if we could find out who the conductor and the engineer was and actually speak to them.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, the closest,
everybody in that town, they had to have heard that.
And the closest repair facility, if I'm not mistaken, for the engines and possibly the cars would be Huntington, West Virginia. And I would love to talk to somebody that worked on this, because you know that story went through the railroad gossip line like wildfire. Well,
definitely. And you know what's strange is we haven't heard any this little article here. I've read that article that you're talking about. That's the only thing that we can really find on this. And right. You know as well as I do, people talk, and I would love to meet a CSX employee that was around during that time, either at Martin or Paintsville,
or a resident,
or a resident.
That had to have went all over the town when that happened.
Oh, definitely. So, were you able to find mile marker? What was it, 42 or 46?
It's 42. I got on the Google Earth and kind of know the area a little bit, so I kind of followed the tracks from Paintsville, and so you know, and it's probably about 18 miles is what they're saying, roughly. And I found a spot that actually fits the description that the engineer was talking about. It's a double track, real sharp bend, and the river is right off the tracks.
So as far as the environment, that checks out.
Yes, and but I did notice something that was interesting. Right across the river from where all this would have supposedly taken place, there's a house.
Oh, really?
I would be interested in, you know, finding out, was the house there in 2002? Did the people who live there hear anything? Because you know, if something hits a coal car,
that makes a noise.
It's going to be loud.
It has a very loud noise.
You know.
And, I would be interested in seeing if they knew, you know, if anybody heard anything.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, but from Google Earth, where I pull this up, there are no roads to this place.
Oh.
On the side of the river where the tracks are, there are no roads. I mean, if you get out, if you want to go visit this place, you're going to get out and you're going to walk a couple of miles to get back where it's at.
Now,
in either direction.
now it makes you wonder what they were looking for in the
Oh, yeah.
on the riverbank. But
They're
also,
probably hungry. They wanted some catfish.
it could have been. I wouldn't eat anything out of that river. But the that's interesting. Maybe that sounds like a road trip for us.
It could be.
We
That would
could
be fun.
head
Like I
down
said,
there
that
and see if we could find that house and maybe speak to the owners if they don't shoot us first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But if we could find out an address or who lived there, we might possibly be able to contact them before and make sure it's okay if we come talk to them.
yeah, that would be the idea thing to do. Yeah, maybe that's what Snowman's homework will be this week, trying to figure out what that address is.
Well, I'll see what I can come up with.
Uh,
But I mean, that to me, this is one of the more famous stories, and it's close to home. And I said, well, that will be a good one to do. And I'm sure that it's been done on podcast. I know they did a show on it, a segment on ancient aliens a couple years ago on it, and it was which naturally they had video.
Sure.
Stuff they made, so they made it a lot more interesting than what I was reading. So
Well, I mean, and eventually we're all new to technology, you three, us three.
no,
Eventually we're going to get there. But right now we're just zooming it. But so all right. That's pretty cool. I really think we should make a road trip down there and kind of
I think we should
at least do some video down in the area to see what we can come up with.
And you know what? Being from Northern Kentucky, I never heard it.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that had never heard of it.
It just kind of got hushed up, I guess.
Yeah, very quickly. And even even in the report that you were talking about there, the guy named Ferguson, I mean, that's got CIA written all over it.
Oh yeah.
And it said what the objects disappeared after the impact, right?
Yes.
What kind of object? What is it something like that made of that can simply disappear and go away after doing that kind of damage to trains? You take a train and you smash it into a semi truck or whatever sitting on the tracks, it doesn't really do that much damage to the train anyway.
Right. And well, I mean, those things you got to look to. Something like that sitting on the tracks, the frame is down there, it's going to take the brunt of the impact. Basically, you got a big diesel motor that turns a bunch of generators, and that big long hood on the tail end of that engine is that's all it is basically just for aerodynamics.
Yeah.
Keep the weather off the motor or whatever. So it's hollow. But you get in a coal car that they're dumping, rocks in to
hundreds of tons of them at a time.
And it's they're built a little bit sturdier to hold the coal inside the car. So hitting those cars had to be it had to have some mass to it, and plus the speed I'm sure had a lot to do with it. But you would think that something took a hit like that would have probably wound up in the weeds or up on the side of a hill after it got hit.
Yeah, that's my point. Is what would be able to survive an impact like that, and simply fly away or transport or teleport or whatever it does, however it travels. It's pretty wild, huh?
Yeah.
I know that we don't have anything that's that sturdy, or at least I've not heard of anything that we have that's that sturdy.
Yeah, I wonder what the occupants on this. I bet they were.
Oh, I'm sure they weren't happy.
Guarantee you, I bet they got bruised up.
You have got to go sit down. I'm doing important things over here. I'm doing important stuff.
Let Leroy drive no more.
Probably not. Damn it, Leroy. Okay.
Shit no better than that.
Well, that's a pretty cool article that you dug up there, Snowman. Miss Marge, would you like me to call you Large Marge?
I am so totally unprepared today.
Oh, really?
Kind of off my game. So I've got a bunch of ideas and things I want to talk about, but I haven't really focused on one yet.
Well, no worries. No worries. We're still getting in Tucker. Listen, you have got to go away.
Oh, Diesel.
You've
Diesel.
got to go over there, buddy. I'm doing stuff.
Snowman's got an emergency. He'll be back.
I told you to use the bathroom before we pulled out.
I can't help it.
Well, I mean, maybe. So, what are some of your ideas that you have for some upcoming stuff?
Well, one thing I want to talk about is I got the unique opportunity to go to a little town outside New Orleans that it's known as the most haunted house in the United States.
Oh, wow.
It's Myrtle's Plantation, and I got to stay there for the weekend. And some crazy stuff happened, and I'm gonna get some more information on when it was built, stuff like that. I know that it was taken over during the Civil War and became a Civil War hospital. And
wow.
yeah, it was a large plantation and there was a lot of activity on it. So that's one thing I'm going to do. And I actually got to stay there. So,
Well, that'll be cool. Hey,
so that'll be coming up. And then I want to get some more dates and stuff on the town that I grew up in. And
okay.
so I've got a lot of things on the table. I just haven't focused on one particular one yet.
Definitely looking forward to it. No, you're fine. We're definitely looking forward to that. Well, I guess I'll move on to my next story. We talked about we were going to talk about new technologies, and I have come across something super cool. So scientists have created a Star Trek-like plane that flies using ion thrusters, and it doesn't use fuel. So scientists have taken a major step towards creating an aircraft of the future, one powered by an ion drive rather than using moving parts and fuel like in a conventional aircraft. In a paper published today, or excuse me, in a paper published in Nature, that's the name of the magazine, I guess, Nature. A team led by Stephen Barrett from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology described how they created a so-called electro-aerodynamic powered plane, one that uses solid state propulsion, meaning that no propellers or jet engines with expendable fuel are used. The future of flight shouldn't be things with propellers and turbines. It should be more like what you see in Star Trek, with the kind of blue glow and something that silently glides through the air, Barrett says. This breakthrough has not been possible before because our technology simply wasn't advanced enough. As far back as 1921, scientists have been unsuccessful in trying to develop something similar, once mistaken for anti-gravity technology. But now the team say the key technology advances have enabled this to happen. Now that's interesting. We go back to 1921, they're talking about. So what happened around that time was the rise of the Nazis, right? You know, we're not fans of Nazis, not in any shape or form, but
Nope.
if you are going to talk about UFOs or crazy weird technology, you have to go back to the beginnings, which is in our recorded history where the Nazis had started messing around with stuff. And it's not just anything. I mean, they were into the occult, they were into spiritual beliefs, they were into there's a good documentary kind of movie on Prime called The Aldebaran Mysteries, which if you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. That kind of explains where a lot of the stuff, or I'm sorry, a lot of the UFO stuff for the Nazis came from. So I'm a big fan of this ion drive, though, because I've always said that we should be more like Star Trek as we go along.
Well, now, a lot of the satellites that are in space have an ion drive.
Oh, really?
But it doesn't put out the thrust they would need to like fly an airplane. Okay, these things, they got blast off on right, they're already going 23,000 miles an hour or whatever.
What's the
But-
power source of that?
It's just electricity. They usually what they have is like a some kind of nuclear substance, uranium or whatever it is they're using. And as it decays, it gives off electricity, and it runs the satellites. And
That's
what
interesting.
and what that ion drive
You see this guy in the back? What?
it
what are you doing? Look at him.
they
He's
can use-
mooning you all.
Oh yeah.
He is that turd.
Get down.
Why do you put some glasses on him?
Get down, you.
So anyway, it whatever fuel they use, usually they use some kind of gas or something like that. And as that stuff gets electrified, it shoots out ions out the back. Well, they're low charge, but in space, over time, they can build up some pretty significant speed. Because as long as it's pushing ions out, they're going to keep going faster, faster.
Right.
He's mooning us again.
Hey, dude, get down. What are you doing? Nobody wants to see that. Here, get out. I'm so sorry.
That's hilarious.
Nobody wants to see that.
Uh-oh. Guess who I got?
Who you got?
Batman's here.
Oh, let's see him.
Oh, it's a pussycat.
Yeah,
I don't know. The
yeah,
animals are starved for attention tonight.
Yes, they are.
But no, going back, I mean, it makes sense that an ion drive would work in space where there's not a whole lot of friction to slow everything down. But this is claiming that they've made an aircraft that can fly in the atmosphere. Jesus, dude. Hey, hop down. You got yourself stuck, didn't you? Go on.
Well, see, that's what kind of amazes me, is if it's ion powered, what are they doing to actually get those ions to shoot out there with enough force to make a plane fly?
Right, exactly, and it's interesting, and I can't wait to see an actual manned flight with this thing because it would be pretty cool. But
is this just on paper, or have they actually built this?
this says that they have built something because they're talking about in their tests from 2016 to 2018, they created an aircraft with a wingspan of 5 meters that weighed 5.5 pounds, and it had a number of thin electrons running across its wings. And at the front of these are thin wires, while at the back is an aerofoil, a curved surface to produce the lift like on a regular wing. The thin wires at the front are charged to a positive 20,000 volts, while the aerofoil on the back is charged to a negative 20,000 volts, creating a strong electromagnetic field. At the front, the electrons are moved from nitrogen molecules into the air to produce ions. And as these accelerate to the back, they produce an ionic wind, which gives the plane thrust. So it's an actual craft that they've built.
Yeah, but it weighs 5 pounds, so
It weighs 5
made it out
pounds.
of.
They've got a ways to go, but it's there. They're working on it.
Sounds like it.
What's your problem? There's a thunderstorm coming through here, and he hears the thunder outside. That's the problem, I think. But it's okay. He's not really being a jackass yet. But again, that the idea is to eventually be able to use it for space travel, and I understand that. But you have to look at small things like, or you have to, not small things necessarily, but if you were going to use it for human space travel, you would have to have something else in front of the ship, kind of like a deflector shield, like we see on Star Trek, because to move the micro asteroids and the space debris and the small rocks. If not, I mean, the second you get up to any kind of significant speed, you're going to get your craft is going to look like Swiss cheese.
Yes.
So I don't know. So let's move on a little bit there. The basic idea is that if you ionize the air, which means removing an electron from it, you can accelerate the air with an electric field. Barrett told the name of this website that I see is I effing love science, so
Yeah.
we're not going to say that. But basically, it says that Barrett told IFLS science, like the force you get if you rub a balloon on your head. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. In a world where we are trying to find alternative fuels for our, where we can't give up the way that we live. Again, I'm a trucker. My livelihood and everyone else's livelihoods depends on trucks moving.
Yeah.
You have people who are traveling, and even in the cargo industry, aircraft are necessary. So it is kind of neat, and I really am looking forward to where this goes to, because if and when we get to the point where we are out of natural resources we can pull out of the ground to run our vehicles, this is going to be this is going to be there and ready to go, instead of previously, where, not to try to get political or anything, but previously where we kind of just shut all of our coal mines down and expected something else to pop up in its place.
Yeah.
And it bankrupted us, killed the country. Now we're trying to work a little smarter, where we're having things in place decades, at least working on decades before we will need them.
And that's the way it should be. That the coal industry, when that got shut down, like I said, they had nothing to replace it with. They got the basic technology, but it is not there. It's not to where it needs to be to take care of our needs.
No, definitely not.
And solar and wind is probably not going to be the answer. It's going to have to be some Batman effect. It's going to have to be some other kind of power source.
Right.
And I actually read an article. Gosh, this has been maybe 7 or 8 years ago. That they could do an electric car, but they have when they first started coming out with nuclear reactors, you had these fission reactors that we use now, correct?
Yeah.
And they also had one that was a sodium that was made out of some kind of salt that it was radioactive as well, but it was a little more efficient. But for some reason, they went with the fission reactor. I read the article, though. 8 grams of this, if you put it in a car, would run that car for 100 years.
Oh, wow.
And I've seen and that people say, "Oh God, you can't put that in a car; they wreck all the time." Well, that's true, but they can make a container that can contain that. When they haul the nuclear waste, I've actually seen videos where they test these containers that they put the waste in. And it gets hauled across the country on trains. And
sure,
they wreck these things. They actually hit one with a locomotive. It did not rupture or anything like that. So if they can make something to hold something as dangerous as the nuclear waste, they can make a container where you could actually probably put it in the car.
Well, you can, but then you have to look at the cost of what your car is going to go up to too. If you have that kind of material in there, it's not going to be cheap.
No, but now look what's coming here in the near future. All these electric cars coming out. These batteries,
every time one of them crashes, it bursts into flames.
They're either going to run out of the materials they need to make the batteries, and they're going to be so expensive you're not going to be able to buy the car.
Well, they're rushing them through.
Yeah, they're pushing.
It's not a slow progression. It's like boom.
But here's the kicker for me. You can get these cars out here, and how many people can be able to afford them?
Yeah, very true. But the thing is, and every time one of these electric cars crash, they burst into flames, and they burn for days and days and days.
Yes. Well, and you got to look too at they're going to get all these cars rushed out, and what's the first thing that's going to go away? You're going to see gas stations all of a sudden start disappearing and getting replaced with charging stations.
Right.
What about let's say 50% of the American people that can't afford to go and buy one of these? All of a sudden their gas is going to be out the roof, and they're going to have an old car that they're probably going to get,
Well, they
not
can't afford to
shame,
drive it.
people harass.
Well, they
You
can't
know,
afford to drive it.
They won't be able to drive. Well, I mean, the area we live in, that if you have a job, you're driving 30 or 40 miles to get to work.
I see that you're dealing with animal problems too.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you're absolutely right. And when it,
I mean, I just look at that. They don't have. They don't look at the big. You can produce these cars, and hell, I mean, some of them are pretty nice. I would love to have.
Yeah.
But,
Well, all right.
But you got to look at it. You're going to have to charge it, so you got to pay for the electricity. And then you're going to have to worry about in 5 years, is this battery going to go out like your battery goes out in your car right now? Only this thing, instead of $100, is probably going to cost you $7,000 or $8,000.
Well, and here's the thing though. Electric cars have been mainstream now for what? 15 years? 10 years, at least 10 years.
Maybe. But they're not really mainstream. You had a couple of places. Tesla is probably the biggest one that's actually got.
I don't know. I would say they're mainstream.
You got to look. Once now that the GM and Ford and I guess Dodge as well are producing these electric vehicles, Tesla's going to have to compete.
Well, no, and I would say they're mainstream because you have manufacturing lines dedicated to cranking these things out. You have dealerships solely specific for electric vehicles, but you also have the other manufacturers. Chevrolet had the Chevrolet Volt before Tesla was really a thing, or not really a thing, but before they had dealerships popping up everywhere.
And it really didn't take off either.
No, it didn't. But here's my point is they've been around for what, 10, 15 years, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't have called it mainstream up until maybe 10 years ago. Like I said, Tesla was probably the first big company that actually started producing, but they can't produce it.
What I'm saying is they're mainstream now, is what I'm saying. And they've been around for 10, 15 years, right? How many charging stations in our area have you seen?
None.
Exactly. That's my point.
None. But, I heard with their infrastructure bill that just got passed.
Did it get passed?
Yeah, the Senate passed.
Okay.
But
they chiseled it down.
As long as there's not a lot of useless crap in there that we don't need, like gender studies in Pakistan. Gender studies in Pakistan we don't need. However, yes, our infrastructure is bullshit. They had a bridge that has a giant crack on it and is one of the main lines coast to coast I-40. A gigantic crack in it at Memphis, and they had to shut the whole bridge down. So
yeah.
Yes, our infrastructure is in dire need of repair. I agree with that. But if whoever these dirty politicians are trying to weasel in bullshit like gender studies in Pakistan, for instance, no,
and or oh gosh, what was it? They had a cow over that. Oh shoot! It's like a big theater or something.
No, it's the big theater in Washington D.C.
New York, I believe. One of the two. But I'm never going to get to go there. Why do you know what I'm going to put my tax dollars for that? I would rather have them come out here, pave the roads, paint the roads, fix the bridges.
Yeah, there's no reason, as much as we are charged in taxes, we're probably one of the highest charged countries tax-wise in the world. There's no reason we pay probably, I would venture to say 70% in taxes once you account for income taxes, your property taxes, your fuel taxes, your grocery taxes, just basically taxes. So every time you go to a restaurant, you're paying taxes. Every time you go to a sporting event, you're paying taxes. Every time you go to anything, you are paying tax. You go to a skating rink, you're paying taxes. We are probably one of the highest tax countries in the world, and I can drive 15 miles down the road and have to go get an alignment on my vehicle. There's no sense in that.
No, and the biggest thing with with all that is they need, we give money to these foreign countries like
Okay, we're not going to get political.
well, we've already been there.
No, let's not get political.
But what I'm saying is we need to take care of this country first.
I agree. Well, this has been the Paranormal Trucker. It's been a great show. I guess we're done. This will be our last episode.
No.
Have to sing you down over
there. Well, I'm just saying, like I say, just, we need to take care of our stuff. We've got homeless people. We have people going hungry, and, they're out here paying, which I can understand some of it. They're actually paying our farmers not to grow crops. So some of these other countries can sell their crops, and have some kind of income.
Which is actually,
but you've got
ridiculous.
So many people that are hungry, so many people that are homeless. Our infrastructure is
crap.
Bad. We build it and we let it go.
Well, and not to mention we have problems in our own backyard too with the border crisis down south. Instead of bickering amongst each other of how we keep these aliens out, why don't we figure out what's actually going on down south and let's help fix that.
Yeah, that's that's
the $1 million question.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to be really focusing on.
First off, they need to stop the flow coming in. But then, to be fair, a path to citizenship in the United States is pretty damn tough. That needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
But, if these people want to come here and be a United States citizen, pay their taxes like the rest of us, and, contribute to society, I'm all for that. That's what this country was made for. That's what it was made from, was immigrants.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it weren't for immigrants, you and I wouldn't be here.
Well, exactly.
Marge wouldn't be.
That would be legal immigrants.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Instead of just letting them in and you don't keep track of them, and they're not paying tax, but they're getting all this free stuff, because they'll be able to get food stamps, they'll be able to get this, they'll be able to get that. They're not a citizen, so they're not paying tax. And to me, that is wrong. That is, I don't know. We could sit here and go on about this all day. I just think
but we really don't need to tackle the world's problems in one episode. But the issue is,
I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Well,
we can tackle something.
The problem is, guys, we are. This is just our opinions. It's not a
exactly.
Yeah. We're not trying to lead a movement or of any kind. This is just stuff that, as everyday working citizens, we see that we would like maybe our government to take a look at, instead of saying, "Oh no, this is how it's going to be. Just deal with it." No, I mean, there's some reason that Central America and South America citizens are flocking here by the thousands. We need, instead of sending money to countries that don't need it, who hate us, absolutely hate us, could not stand, would behead us and show our beheaded heads on Al Jazeera. We need to be figuring out what's going on down south and see if we can help there.
Yeah, well, there again, they need to take care of their own country. They need to.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Here's what we have to look at. So,
is we're already sending money to those countries. We're sending them money every year, but where do you think that money's going? It's going in somebody's pocket.
I understand that, and I know that. But what I'm saying is, while we are one of the most taxed countries in the world, we are probably one of the wealthiest, not the wealthiest, obviously, but we're one of. We can help out. We can help out where we're needed. I'm not saying we need to be handing out money by the trillion truckload, but I'm saying we need to be fixing our own fences and painting our own siding here in our own country first.
And we need to be, and we have the resources. We could be energy independent.
Absolutely, we could. 100% we could.
And
that right there is the biggest tragedy in this whole situation, this whole debacle of the last 10 years. We could be energy independent. This is probably the last Paranormal Trucker show. We're never going to get any listeners or followers again, but
Oh,
it's
we
the
kind of
truth.
went off the rails here a little bit, but no, we're gonna get back on track. All right, let's talk about this new technology. How about have you been keeping up with SpaceX?
I not lately, no.
Okay, well they stacked that big ass rocket, their booster and their Starship, and it's supposed to do an orbital flight here shortly.
Oh, really?
And this thing is taller than the Saturn V that went to the moon.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. There's some good YouTube channels that follow this stuff, all the space related stuff. What's cool is, used to when I was growing up, it was the United States government and the Russian government, and that's who went to space.
Yeah.
Now it's you've got 2 billionaires that actually took their own stuff, rode into space.
Yep.
And you've got Elon Musk, SpaceX that are reusing, just about everything that they send up is coming back, and they're reusing.
Which now, if I remember right, is one of the biggest reasons why the shuttle program kind of failed, because everything costs so much.
Reusable.
Well, and the fact that the shuttles were 40 years old and starting to fall apart.
But you also got to look at NASA had so much redundancy in those machines. Those space shuttles had 5 computers. One went down, they had 4 more to go.
Yeah.
And so they, all this stuff that they put in there, there was so much safety mechanisms and all this stuff, and they had systems upon systems to back each one of them up in case something failed. Which, don't get me wrong, that's probably a good thing in space because there's not a whole lot of air. You can't just get out.
No, yeah.
So, but, it costs so much for that stuff to do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to look too, when we went to the moon, the computers that powered or ran the mission or the ships or whatever, was about you probably got a pocket watch or a wristwatch that has more computing power than those.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you have to look at the technology then was simply just it was to the point, by the book. That's what you needed to do. What you needed to do. Everything we have now has multifunctions.
It has multifunction. I mean, did you look in well here? And this is something that kind of got me when SpaceX and oh gosh, who was it? Boeing, I think, was making that Starliner space capsule.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they were trying to see who's going to get there first, and SpaceX inside of that thing looked like a cruise ship with a big video game that you fly it with,
Yeah.
And then they showed the inside of the Starliner, and it was based on 70s technology. There's buttons and switches everywhere, and I'm sitting there thinking, why?
Yeah.
You've got all this technology that you can clean this thing up, and probably way less than all this stuff you got in there. You could do more with it.
Well, yeah, and one of the biggest issues when you run a lot of electronics is heat. Where are you going? How is the heat going to be dissipated off of 70s technology?
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen the SpaceX capsule where they had like 3 computers in there.
Yeah, it's just like they probably watch movies on their way up.
Yeah, probably. I'd be jamming out. But
they, like I said, and then you got these other companies that, Blue Origin. I don't know. They talk a big game. They're a little slow out of the gate. But now Richard Branson, he said, we're going to do space tourism. And they worked on this thing for 8 or 9 years, and they actually got it to where it works now.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can afford it. You got to be pretty rich to get a seat on this thing, but still.
Well, yeah, and the Branson idea is a little different than what some of these other guys are. He takes a glider or a plane up to a certain altitude and then drops his Starship off, and it rockets on up instead of having to break the bonds of gravity immediately right out of the gate. I mean, that I don't know. I'm not a rocket surgeon or anything, but I mean, it would make sense that that it would maybe be a little easier for that craft to
Yeah, well,
to go to space.
and he actually launched a satellite the other day.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
they have a 747 with a rocket on the bottom of it that did the exact same thing. It gets up there and drops the rocket takes off.
Hmm. That's pretty neat.
But they actually put a satellite in space.
Have either of you been keeping track of our time? Because I'm not sure. I believe we're coming up on an hour. I believe this is going to be a long episode.
That's a pretty good episode.
Yeah, so far I've
We got
liked it.
into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really have. It may be our
We went
last
off
one.
the rails about halfway through.
That's okay.
It may be our last one,
That's
but
all right.
we have I've got some announcements here. Next week on the show, we're going to have Seth of Seth's Daily Podcast. He's going to be joining us so that we can pick his brain a little bit and see what's going on with him. And then we have also on his show this week, he has got I just had it. He's got the former WWE Cruiserweight Champion Kid Cash on Tuesday. And then he has the Spooky Family on Thursday. If you guys know, we are big fans of the Spooky Family. We love them to death. And of course, Seth's Daily Podcast. Give Seth a listen. Give the Spooky Family a listen. They drop episodes every Monday, I want to say. But this week on their episode, they have got an interview with I'm going to butcher this name, Tanya Derenberger, Woody Derenberger's daughter, and he was the first person to meet Indrid Cold, which was right at the beginning of the Mothman stuff. So that's promising to be a good interview. So let's see, Seth's Daily Podcast, the Spooky Family, and Justin from Talk Junkie. You guys go give them a listen and join us next Sunday and look for our little short videos that we've done through the week. We're going to do this week, and like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll know when we post something else. Also, we have a Facebook page. You can go on there. You can message us on Facebook. You can leave comments on any of the videos we have on there. We also have the email at paranormaltrucker@yahoo.com. Please leave us a message. We love hearing from you guys. And also we had one listener actually give us a suggestion this week. We'll call him L. L sent us a book, The Great American Conspiracies. Says you can download this book. I guess it's an Audible book. So the Great American Conspiracies. I will definitely be checking that out. I think you guys should too.
Yes.
So final thoughts for the episode, Snowman?
Well,
I think we had a great episode.
I think so too.
Now, I don't know, is this a secret or not about what's going to happen next month?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We just have to make sure that
let's put it this way. I've got the PKE meter on charge. We're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we've ironed out a date yet or not, but we are going to be joining another local podcast. We're going to be doing a ghost hunt, so that's going to be a good time, and hope that everyone can join us and check us out, because it'll be a lot of fun. Large Marge, your final thoughts?
I'm going to have some good stories next podcast. I lost my train of thought. I'm not on my game today. There's something wrong upstairs.
No.
And I'm not on my game today.
Large Marge has not been feeling real well this week.
Oh, no.
No, I haven't been feeling real well.
I understand completely.
All I got to say is, tell them Large Marge sent you.
That's going to do it for us, guys. Again, Paranormal Trucker at yahoo.com. We drop episodes every Sunday. Check us out on Facebook, The Paranormal Trucker. Our YouTube page, The Paranormal Trucker.
The parade wave.
Just The Paranormal Trucker at on YouTube. You can comment, like, subscribe to any of our videos. You can follow me on TikTok. It's my personal page. just go to our Facebook page. I've got a link on there. I don't really want to give my name out on here.
Oh, you did last week.
I did by accident. But that's going to do it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, we are the Paranormal Trucker. We're trying to get the bugs lined out here. We're off to a bit of a slow start, but we're gaining momentum, I feel like.
That's right.
Well, maybe we probably need to change the name to Paranormal Trucker and some slight political shit.
No,
I don't like politics. No, I don't like politics. Let's not do that.
me either.
Again,
no, I know that we went off the rails. That was bad.
Disclaimer: these are not. These
It
are
won't
just
be
our,
brought up again.
Yeah, these are just our opinions. We're not trying to lead a movement or anything.
No, if I wanted to shove something down somebody's throat, I'd run for president.
Yeah.
That's what the rest of them are doing.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. Have a great week. We will see you on Sunday.
See you.
Bye.